What is up, y'all? Will here with Schedulefly, and this is another episode of the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, brought to you by us here at Schedulefly, simple, web-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service, and happy to say all at a low price point. We've never raised our prices in 18 years. We might one day, but we haven't. Not yet. So if you're on pencil and paper or Excel, make life easier for you, for your team, give us a shot. 30-day free trial, schedulefly.com. My personal cell phone is right there on that website. You're welcome to call me or text me. I'm happy to rap with you. Love to share our story and what we're doing. 30 days free, no obligations. Also, if you are on another scheduling software and you really just need to schedule and communicate with your staff, you are probably paying a lot more than you should for something that's not as easy as it should be and may not have great customer service. And you're paying for the venture capital folks and the private equity folks that own those businesses. So schedulefly.com, give us a shot, call me, happy to talk anytime. That's all I want to say about Schedulefly. I want to get right in here to this episode today of Restaurant Owners Uncorked. This is a cool, unique episode. As you all know, normally these are episodes with people that own and run restaurants. We have somebody today that does that, but also has a phenomenal point of sale business. And this is Tim McLaughlin, and this is a really cool story. So I'm excited to have a chance to tell it today here, Tim. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Will. It's pretty exciting, and love to hear your story too, actually. I have to admit, it's always fun hearing you talk about having your own cell phone on the website.
My flip phone. In fact, I should silence that thing right now, just in case. It's rare that I get calls. That's the funny thing is, like, it's on 3 pages, but I don't ever really get phone calls. I might get 2 a day, 3 a day.
For what it's worth, my phone number shows up. I had a call from a very nice woman in California, and somehow my phone number ended up on her credit card statement.
Really?
Yeah, it was. It's some kind of esoteric bug, and I'm not sure exactly how my phone number showed up. I think her name might have been Rose. She actually apologized more to me when I should have been apologizing to her. I did apologize to her, but yeah.
So this was not a GoTab customer? Or
no, it was
like
a
that.
GoTab customer.
Oh, it was.
She was a customer of a restaurant that used GoTab in California.
Used GoTab.
And somehow, due to some bug in the payments stuff.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I ended up getting a call from a very nice woman, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm so sorry to call you. What is this charge on my credit card?" And we figured out what it was ultimately, and it was pretty entertaining. But
well, so before we started recording, I was telling you that we just tell stories on this podcast. Like, that's what this podcast is for, is to share stories of people in hospitality or that are serving hospitality. And the one question that I always ask is, how did you get into hospitality? And I think your origin story for like GoTab is like really freaking cool. Like, I love why you started this business, but take us back to like what you were doing prior to starting GoTab.
That's a funny and crazy question. So I was actually in the services business for 12 years. I built a company. I've started 7 companies in total. The first company I sold to the second company, which had 2 other co-founders, and we ended up morphing into a professional services company. So it was a different type. It was more consulting in the end for large public companies, publicly traded companies. But it was still services, in conference rooms more so, and at desks. But you had to do the same sort of thing. You weren't running food to tables, but you were taking care of your client and doing what they asked you to do. Sometimes it made sense, and sometimes it didn't. So anyway, I sold that company. We grew it to a couple hundred people. We sold it to a private equity group in Los Angeles. It was a great outcome for everybody. Kind of like your company, we never took on any capital, so we bootstrapped it. And my last big client was Goldman Sachs. It was a fun client to work on, very demanding, as you would expect. But But then ultimately, I sailed off into the sun, and as I tell this story, like every jackass who makes a pile of money in technology, I opened a restaurant.
How hard could it be?
Yeah, how hard could it be? Exactly. Believe it or not, it started as a joke. My dad is a cyclist. I'm also a cyclist, and I live on a bike trail. And it was a number of friends said, okay, you made a bunch of money. Why don't you go open a restaurant? And I was like, that is not something that I want to do. I do like taking care of people. I do actually enjoy the services business, albeit a different one. I've been a food nerd for my whole life. I've been a beer nerd for my whole life. And at the time, Virginia had just changed the laws on alcohol, and you could sell beer direct to the consumer as a brewery. So there was this big opportunity in 2012 to sort of get after it and open a craft brewery, which were really popular and trendy at the time. And so what started as a joke turned into hey, this might actually make sense. Maybe not just a restaurant, maybe a restaurant and a brewery. So it started as a sort of passion project, like many of these idiotic ventures do. And I became that guy. I became that guy who sold a tech company, who owned a restaurant, except for the difference was I actually worked in it.
Yeah.
So I designed a lot of the brewery. I enjoyed a lot of the architecture. My background's a mechanical engineer, so I got a chance to get my hands dirty, which I really loved, actually.
I would love that, yeah.
It was great. It was a nice contrast to my prior career. And, hung out and bartended and did all kinds of stuff to, find out how operations worked. And so I opened the first brewery. It went great. We were killing it. As I mentioned, breweries were hot at the time. And we were
did something, sorry to interrupt, but you did something that most people, I think, that were in your situation would not have done. Most people that have made that pile of money that wanted to start a restaurant would have said, and I've got this guy or this gal that's going to run it. Like they wouldn't have been in it. And that's a huge part of the difference between.
Somewhat. I did hire people.
So but you were there.
I was there. I actually designed our brewing process along with our brewer.
Yeah.
In fact, frustrated him by some of our designs, which we still use to this day. They were unconventional because I wasn't, from that world, but they were effective and they were capital efficient, which worked great for me as the investor. So it was interesting, but I was definitely there. In fact, I had an IRS audit, as probably plenty of these people do. And the IRS audit was, hey, are you actually an active investor? And so the IRS came in and had to walk around with me and said, well, okay, do you actually know what's going on? I walked him through the entire process. It was done in an hour. And she walked down. She's like, clearly you are in the process.
Wow.
So I passed the audit without an issue. But it was interesting. It was a lot of fun, but like it was never intended to be my whole job because I am a technologist and I do love technology. So I was on some other technology boards and doing some other things, kind of figuring out what I wanted to do with my next venture. And I knew it would be technology again because that's been my lifelong passion. Yeah. And but this is next to my house. Mind you, this is 2 miles from my house. So I would go there probably 3 times a week, still go there 2 times a week. And my wife actually runs the brewery and actually the second brewery. So that continued its course. We ended up getting approached by the county to build another brewery with a developer who had some extra property long story there. But so we said, okay, let's do this. We're making money on the first one. This would be interesting. The next one, of course, was way harder. No idea. I mean, the first one was hard, but the second one was much bigger, much more capital. And as a result, it was kind of an operational nightmare. It was, by the time we got done reconstructing this old warehouse, it was 3 stories tall. So you have, big staircases. It was a converted United Rentals warehouse. So it had cranes in it previously, just to give you some idea how tall it is.
Yeah.
And then we also, so in total is a 6,000 square foot plat inside. So you have 3 stories of that, although not full coverage. And
that's the one I went to, right?
Yeah, probably in Fairfax.
And you had we walked upstairs and there was that had a really, gotcha.
It's big. And then it's got a 5,000 square foot outdoor patio in addition to that. So you got a lot of service area.
Yeah, right.
Our first one in comparison is 3,000 square feet. So much, much smaller.
Right.
Very serviceable, sort of your neighborhood bar, tavern place. And it's in fact called Caboose Tavern.
Yeah. Okay.
The other one's called Caboose Commons. It kind of functions as a coffee shop during the day. The vision was always, okay, let's do this coffee thing. I'm a coffee nerd. In fact, we were going to roast our own coffee at one point. And so we opened that one in 2018, and we were already kind of going, how in the hell are we going to service this place? Because it's going to be tough with just this much coverage. Hiring's hard at the time, and breweries were slammed. So we had lines out the door. People were standing in line, and we're like, we cannot. There's almost no way we can do full service on a 3-story building with a giant patio, and getting staff here is going to be tough. So at the time, we were incubating GoTab, and GoTab was started in 2016. We were initially just trying to tackle what we viewed as the payments problem, which has been, I could list a bunch of companies, in 2010 to 2015 that tried to tackle that. Like Tabbed Out was trying to do it. OpenTable, most people don't know they actually had a payment product, which is no longer.
Okay.
And the idea was like, hey, let's get rid of the thing that nobody really likes in hospitality. Strangely, some people still conjecture that presenting the check is some part of the experience, but I would say it's not.
Yeah.
And the ideal hospitality experience, the check just disappears when you leave. So we tried doing that. We were rolling out QRs for payment. We had 0 adoption, 0 market fit. Nobody wanted it. It just was, they wanted it in theory, but humans don't change behavior. I would say my realization is humans don't change behavior without sufficient pain. They won't change behavior for opportunity. If you like dangle a prize, you'll get some small percentage of people who chase the prize. But they will change behavior to avoid pain.
Carrot and stick. Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. Yeah.
The stick is actually far more motivational when it comes to like, hey, I know how to do this the normal way. Anyway, when that second brewery opened, I was doing this sort of side gig with GoTab with my current co-founder, and one of the engineers said, hey, there's this QR thing that they're using in Asia, and they're using it in restaurants. And most people don't realize this, but in 2017 was when the iPhone was first able to scan a QR. So the reason QRs are big all over the world, but not big in the US, is because QRs didn't work on the iPhone. The camera scanning a QR just didn't happen. Okay. All the Android phones in the world do.
So they're a lot bigger around the world.
Yeah, so the rest of the world uses Android phones.
Okay.
The only country in the world that has dominant iPhones is United States and Australia.
Really?
Yeah, you go outside of those and you're going to be all Android phones. Sorry, there are some anomalies in Europe.
Interesting.
But like all of Asia is all Android phones. It's not there. So of course it's a very different technological ecosystem. And the QRs were already there in Asia. And so we sort of did some studying of what they were doing. We're like, hey, we could adapt this to payment. Turns out we were still wrong on payment. And we were putting it, believe it or not, on receipts, which you now see sort of people putting QRs on receipts to pay. Well, we were doing that in 2017.
Okay.
Turns out the world was not ready for that.
No.
And it really wasn't that compelling. And I would argue it still isn't that compelling because you still spend all the time running the receipt to the table. And you actually pay more when you do that anyway. But side note, turns out what we found was if you put a QR on a table in 2018 is when my second brewery opened, people will actually scan the QR when faced with a massive line.
Put it on a table, meaning like literally you have like a placard or something with.
Well,
the
we
QR
were not so fancy. It was called packaging tape with the QR.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
Slapped on the table.
Yeah. All right.
So remember, this is 2 years before COVID.
Yeah.
This is something most of the United States had never done, which is scan a QR. This is something that we sort of incubated, saying, "Hey, I bet that people will change behavior," and this is kind of an experiment. If faced with the prospect of a line, which Friday and Saturday night we always had to get a beer at the counter, I bet some people will do it. And so I stood there for 3 days, the first 3 days we opened, and walked up and down the line teaching people how to scan QRs. And so it was pretty funny just watching sort of the profiles of the people who would do it.
Yeah.
The young people, of course, were more likely to do it because they probably had scanned a QR.
Right.
I actually found, interestingly, a lot, and I hate to profile, but a lot of the older women were actually quite flexible and quite willing to go give it a go on their iPhone. Once I showed them, they were excited and they would run over and do it. A lot of the men with broken Android phones, maybe you would fall in this box.
Well, I mean, I couldn't scan it with my phone, but yes, yeah.
But they would look at me like I was crazy, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna hack my phone." So
Yeah.
they would get dragged over by their spouses, and they would scan the QR. But it really, the thing that caused people to do it, and we would see 60% of our orders for beer come through this QR on a Friday and Saturday night.
So you're at your table. There's a long line up there. You scan the QR code. You order your beer.
Yep.
You guys get the order.
We run it directly to their table. We know which table it is based on every QR. This is a crazy experiment, but it turned out that people would do it, and we would sell a lot of beer this way, 60% on Friday and Saturday, when faced with a line when people had no other option. So
Pain. Stick.
Pain, right?
Gotcha.
Pain is the line. And also that line, the prospect of the line, because we have this outdoor space, people didn't want to leave their table to go inside to stand in line. So they would actually be really motivated to figure out how to do it. And this was a chunky, painful digital experience because we, slammed this together pretty quickly. No one had ever done it before. There was one company we found out doing the same thing in New York City called Bebot. They actually sold to DoorDash.
Right.
Steve Simone, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
He's now making anti-drone guns, as a funny side note.
Wait a minute, hold on. Anti-drone gun. Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay. Yeah, I heard about those guys. Bebot. Yeah.
So Bebot sold to DoorDash.
Okay.
But they were the only other company at the time. Remember, again, 2 years before COVID. So anyway, we had this theory. The theory was right in my one brewery. Mind you, my first brewery, which is full service, we still never rolled this out because this is just weird, right? Yeah. This is something that worked in Fairfax County in Fairfax, Virginia, which I should give some quick demographics on Fairfax, Virginia. It's highly international.
Okay.
It's young.
Yeah.
So you get this highly diverse, educated, young crowd, and it turns out there's a lot more adoption than if you go to where I live, which is a lot less international and older. Not much interest. Yeah, it just zero. It's just not there.
Yeah. Plus, you probably don't have the pain part of like the huge long lines and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you don't
have a smaller footprint. You can service it better.
Yeah, exactly. So you got your neighborhood bar feel, and then you got your common area, your commons, as we called it, the Caboose Commons. So the vibe was different. The energy level's different. The music was louder in the big one. The music was quieter in the other one. It was, just a different feel. So we never even tried to deploy it. The one thing we did end up doing is we deployed it on our patio because our patio was kind of a pain to get out to and service because you had to go down a flight of stairs and people didn't want to have to go in for the same reason because they had to go into the bar to order, and we never were able really to service the patio.
Pain. There you go.
And pain.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain.
And anybody who's run a service staff and has a hard to get to, like patios are almost always by definition hard to get to.
Yeah.
Because you have to go through a door, you're carrying a bunch of stuff. So we did deploy it on our patio successfully because it was basically an option. You could go to the bar and order, or you could order from the QR. So that worked. We tried to sell this thing in 2019 to other customers, and we had exactly whopping 0 customers. Actually, I should correct that. We had one customer, which you might know these guys. Do you happen to know Johan from InKind?
Oh, well, I mean, I've talked to the InKind guys.
Okay, so Johan and Andy are the founders of InKind.
Yeah.
They used GoTab at their bar. They didn't actually, I don't think, maybe InKind existed. In 2019, funny. It was...
Was that here or in New York?
It was in D.C.
Okay.
So, yeah, they were in D.C. They now live in Austin. But they essentially used it at their bar, and the reason is because they would have it was a weird bar in the sense that it basically was a happy hour only bar. It was 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. On Monday through Friday, and then it would close on the weekends. So if you can imagine trying to staff a bar for 3 hours on weeknights, like no bartender wants to show up for 3 hours on a weeknight.
Right.
So they were actually using it successfully, although again, it was still early days and this is a weird thing to do. So that was maybe our only other material customer. I think we had some other random, trials that sort of went nowhere. Anyway, so fast forward, COVID hit 2020, and all the people who told us we were total idiots and this would never have any place in hospitality, turned around in 2020 and said we were geniuses and, adopted it begrudgingly in most cases.
Right.
And I don't, just to be clear, I don't think the QR is a solution for all things. There were times where there's lots of things where I think it does solve it, and we're actually moving more to NFCs and tap as a technology rather than QRs. But that was how we started.
Yeah.
It was like a happy accident, if you will, or it was an experiment that ended up, COVID gave us a tailwind.
Sure.
Many people think we started in COVID, but that was absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
There were a ton of fast followers. Pretty much all those companies are gone. There's probably a couple that are still around that sort of did a crummy copycat version, which confused a lot of people because a lot of people had bad experiences with QRs in COVID because guess what? The product was slammed together in 2 weeks in 2020, and opportunistically people took advantage of ignorant buyers and said, oh, this is what QRs do. But that wasn't what they did, and they functioned very poorly.
When you were using this, you had to integrate that with your point of sale.
Yeah, good point. So that was always the stumbling block. The challenge is that anybody who's sort of studied restaurant technology has realized it's not like enterprise technology. And what I mean by that is my background was enterprise technology. When I did work at Goldman Sachs, for example, or when I did work really at any of my clients, the idea that your data was held hostage or locked up and you had to pay to access your data, you would have been sued out of business. Like if you sold software to Goldman Sachs and said, hey, your data is ours and you don't have access to your data, first off, they would never do business with you.
Right. Yeah. It's non-starter.
It's a non-starter. And secondly, the idea that you have to pay again for your data, like pay an API access fee, would never fly.
Yeah.
So that was always sort of amazing to me. At the time, I bought breadcrumb from my first brewery and bought toast for my second brewery.
Okay.
We bought them both to integrate because naively coming from outside the industry, I thought, well, I'll just plug into these POSs. Turns out they actually had no ways to plug data into them. There was no API with breadcrumb to push orders in. And Toast in 2020 or 2019 actually closed its doors to us. And the reason they closed their doors is because they told us they were partnered with Bbot and they didn't need another partner. So even though I actually bought Toast because they were an open ecosystem, anybody who recalls the history of them would recall that their story is actually very similar to ours. They started as a payments company and they actually wanted to integrate into the legacy POSs who also told them no.
Right.
Well, somewhat comically, they turned around and told me no, and that's what they do now to many integrators now.
Right. Yeah, sure.
So there's, sort of you're open until you're not. And as soon as you're king, then you basically close the doors and say, hey, I'm king. We're no longer a democracy.
Right.
So that was our experience. We were trying to push orders into Toast. They told us, hey, you have to pay all these fees. And even then we're not going to, truly partner with you. And we have a preferred partner and you're not it.
And you're doing this just as a customer, not even as like trying
to. As a customer, yeah. I was not even
paying them as a customer and just saying, I need,
Yeah, we bought Toast. My wife actually still has Toast hardware that's been repurposed to GoTab.
Okay.
And it's sitting at, her breweries. But essentially, we eventually had to get rid of it because they closed the door and they weren't open to GoTab. So, and we weren't doing it we were never trying to be a competitor. That was actually never our intent. Our intent was to be remember, we were just solving what we viewed as a point problem.
Right.
We didn't want to be the POS. We didn't want to be a system of record. But ironically, Toast did exactly to us what Micros and Aloha did to them previously.
And what year is this when this went down?
This would have been 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Okay. So COVID hit. We took off. Had massive tailwind. We grew 100 times in our revenue in the next 2 years.
And this is just for the QR code?
Just for the QR code.
Okay.
So 100% of our revenue is on QRs. 2021 hits, and the world's pretty frustrated and tired of masks and QRs and all this garbage that's been forced on them by whether you want to say it's the government or society or mass deception, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But we're all tired of it either way. And as a result, there's sort of a cultural backlash in 2021, and which I agree with. We're all nostalgic, and we all want it to go back to, I want to talk to people. I want to meet people. I want to shake hands with people, right? And so in 2021, there's this push of, okay, we're fine with QRs, but we need it to go into our POS. Well, the systems still remain closed. Aloha, we never could get past integrating with Aloha, which amazingly still has customers today. Obviously, Toast never became a friend of ours, and we knew that this was going to happen. Basically end of 2020, we started realizing, okay, we're going to have to become a POS because like the old way of operating isn't going away. And if you look at technology, whether it be pen and paper, which was ultimately replaced by the typewriter, ultimately replaced by the computer, we still have pen and paper, right? Yep. So you can look at every technology. We still have telephones. You amazingly have one. Despite the fact that there's now smartphones and computers, right? And we still do phone calls, even though there's video conferences. So the old tech never dies. It just has less percentage use.
Right.
So now we have POSs, we have kiosks, we have QRs, we have verbal ordering, we have all kinds of stuff, but we still didn't get rid of the POS because it's kind of the command center. And ultimately we see it at GoTab, we see the POS as like, your plane is on autopilot, but occasionally you need the pilot to control. So you kick off autopilot and you need to override stuff because sometimes the computer's wrong, or sometimes the context is wrong, or sometimes something gets screwed up. And so the POS is kind of that cockpit control system. Okay. So come 2021, we're like, okay, we got to do this because nobody's really open. And so we ended up building a POS and rolled it out in late 2021. We also rolled out a kiosk. We got into everything. One distinction is we are still open to integration. I want to say we're going to always say that we're going to be that way, but I think Toast actually said they were always going to be that way too. Yeah. Maybe I'll be, hopefully we'll stick to our principles a little more. We still are. We're still an open system. Yeah. We have very extensive APIs. Our goal is really to help operators run efficient and wonderful businesses, not to try to own everything that people in hospitality do.
That's a key distinction. I mean, that's kind of what they're doing, right? And that's
well, I was thinking about this today, and I shouldn't disclose some kind of crazy ideas. Have you ever heard how Costco limits their own profit taking?
No.
So Costco, I don't know if it's a legend or truth, but supposedly Costco will take a max of 15% profit on anything they sell. Okay. Even to the point where if they get something at a lower price, they just drop the price. So if they buy jeans and they end up getting a windfall, and for whatever reason they're cheap, well, then they just drop the price and pass it all to the consumer. One thing most people don't read S1 filings, but I read the Toast S1 filings when they went public. And in the S1 filings, they explain how much money restaurants should spend on technology. And the comparison at the time was to banks and other technology-focused companies. Like banks, guess what? They're an information company. Yeah. So they should spend a pretty hefty percentage of their revenue on information technology because literally all they do is push information around. Right. So manufacturers, restaurants, a number of other businesses, they actually spend a pretty small percentage of their revenue. Restaurants might be the worst, and that was certainly the contention when Toast started. And if you sort of read their history of when they started, restaurants spend sometimes less than 0.5%, which is a pretty meager allocation for something that is an accelerator on your business. Like you should probably spend more. Right. But 5% is a lot. 5% is a whole bunch of your revenue, especially when, your total net profit might only be 5%, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is that I think that notion that they're going to take 5% of a restaurant's revenue is kind of misguided. And I think it's way too expensive, and I'm not saying that
was their stated goal. 5%
that was their stated goal
of the restaurants they serve.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a stated goal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that it shouldn't be more. I do think it should be more. And I think I'm a technologist. I believe that technology can improve things.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean there's not a lot of misguided technological experiments. There's a lot.
Sure.
There's a lot of bad ideas that we all throw money at thinking it's the next new, tech solve. And some of those we willingly take that experiment. But, there's still a big human element to hospitality, and I'm not eager to replace that. I like to augment it. And so I don't see, there are some some restaurant businesses where technology takes a really big prominent part when you get into some of the entertainment concepts and automated things like that. And so, their percentage spend should go up. But if you're running a cocktail lounge, how much technology do you really need?
Right.
I'm not saying you shouldn't have it, and you should certainly have it in your inventory and your controls and things like that, the stuff that's invisible to the consumer.
Yeah.
But personally, if I go and sit down in a cocktail lounge, I really don't want to see any tech. I want to talk to a bartender. I want to, ideally sit at a stool or a high top or something and have a great experience and feel like I can never pull out my phone. That's me.
The technology, particularly in those types of places and in full service restaurants and places where you're really going for hospitality, not speed, not like, the difference between McDonald's and, your restaurant near your house. The technology, if the right technology is deployed and the staff is educated properly on how to use that technology, then hopefully what that does is it keeps the staff engaged with the customer more.
Correct.
And with each other as a team more, so they're not spending all their time dealing with the tech.
Yeah, I should admit, or maybe shouldn't admit, I'm a sci-fi nerd, but I don't love Arthur C. Clarke's book, but he has a great book on, sufficiently sophisticated technology appears like magic. And
sufficiently sophisticated technology appears like magic. Okay.
So the fact is, it should actually be invisible, right? I'm not saying there shouldn't be technology there. I'm just saying it doesn't actually have to appear as technology.
Yes.
And to that point, at GoTab, we acquired a company called Opsie, which is a cost management software. It's a recipe software. It's cost management. It's invoice processing. It's really stuff that nobody wants to talk about in restaurants, right? It's not fun. It's hard work. It is actually where you make your money.
Yeah.
Right. But it's something that's
labor intensive. It's time intensive.
Yeah, it's super important.
Yeah.
It's time intensive. It doesn't have to be. This technology gets rid of the time on it.
Right.
Your customer never knows it exists.
Yeah.
Whether you run a fancy, it's super just like accounting. Accounting's super important. You got to do it. It's not sexy, but it will make the difference between whether you take home money or not.
Yeah.
But the customer has no idea.
Yeah.
And so I just believe that there are places where technology is relevant. Certainly McDonald's does a great job on kiosks, and, because part of the experience at McDonald's is speed.
That's it, right? It's not that you want to sit there and talk to no, it's just like I want my food really fast.
Right. And that
hot
makes
and fast.
Perfect sense.
Yeah.
But when depends on the experience you're trying to create. And at GoTab, we get into all kinds of experiences where technology is a prominent part of it. So I'm not in any way saying technology should never have presence. I'm just saying consider what the experience you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And then in some cases, experiences. Because in many cases, in the places we work, they'll have different experiences. They may have kiosks out front for a quick grab and go, and then they may also have a bar where you're sitting down and chatting with the bartender. And then they may also have bowling lanes.
Yeah.
Right? And those bowling lanes may not have people walking around them because maybe they can't staff it.
Right.
So it really it depends on what your feel, your vibe, and experience that you're trying to create, and then layer in your technology appropriately.
All right. So getting back, so you read.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, I mean this is I took us there. But you read the S1 and they're looking for 5%.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm contemplating if we do GoTab has a max take, and we actually publish that.
Costco, 15%.
Correct.
That's where we were.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they're hard. They stick with that, and that rewards
and basically
the customer.
They pass the savings on.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out a way to do it if I could, because I would love to say to all of our clients, like, hey, I know specifically the payments world is rife with fraud and deception. And I hate even getting into payments because it's so long, it's so convoluted. By the end of explaining it to someone, they think you're lying because it's so crazy. And you feel like almost dirty because you're like, I didn't invent this insane system. But just in explaining it, I feel like I had to give so many explanations that I'm almost
right.
I feel like it should just be simple, and it's so not. And I would love I'd love to be able to say, here's how much we make, period, max. I don't know yet how to do that because it's so convoluted with payments. And one of the things that we get into that makes it hard is like we go into some places what's kind of interesting is every operator has points of pain around what they care about and what they don't care about. Some operators hate to pay subscription. Some operators hate to pay on payments.
Right.
Some operators want to just pass everything through to their customer.
Yep.
And so it's very hard to do apples to apples comparison and make it totally transparent to the client because it gets so complicated, because frankly, it's so complicated our own team sometimes is confused.
Yeah.
So in my ideal world, we would get to a point where we can actually transparently show our profit to each client and show them that we're not making a boatload off of them by just deceiving them.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is common in payments.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. The more you know, the more you're aware.
The more icky it feels. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's
Is it because people can? Because you can hide? Like how?
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, there's only, to my knowledge, there's like 3 or 4 industries where there's this thing called residuals. I don't know if you're familiar with residuals. Residuals are a perpetual payment.
Okay.
For selling something. So life insurance, for example, has a residual.
Yeah.
So
right.
insurance is 80% sales cost, which should make everybody feel terrible about buying insurance because you're only 20% is going towards insurance, and the other 80% is going to paying someone for selling it.
Yeah.
So payments is similar in the sense that it pays a residual in some cases, not in our case because we don't have a lot of resellers, but it pays a residual perpetually, meaning that if the person who sold it no longer is even working on the account or servicing them, they're still get paid, even if they quit their job. Yeah. Which you think about that's a lot of built-in cost to everybody that just hangs out there forever until the system gets ripped out. And to me, I really just don't like that because I want to work for my money. Yeah. I think everybody should work for their money. I think that's a crazy concept. It's probably anti-capitalist or something, but
and keep earning it. I mean,
keep earning my money, right? Yeah. And like we want to present value,
right?
So it's a weird world. I didn't know I was getting into it, but now I'm way into it. Yeah. Presenting on it in a month. So yeah. But
okay. Well, then getting back to, this is a big step. Like you got Toast won't let you integrate. You're a customer. Yep. Now you're like, do we need to build our own?
Well, that's what we did. We built our own. We have gone through 3 iterations of hardware. We didn't have the Toast raised $1 billion. We in total raised $30 million. Yeah. Not big institutional investors. We're now profitable. Yeah. So we focus on running a lean business because we feel like if we're lean, we're also able to be more efficient for our customers because we don't have, to your point, we don't have big pockets that we have to payback.
Yeah.
So we are growing it. We're 150% annual growth at this point. We're trying to get to 200, but do it all responsibly, fiscally, so that we're not burning money.
Yeah.
But essentially, yeah, we rolled out all of our hardware. It was hard just because our R&D budgets for hardware are limited. But our new hardware is fantastic. We're rolling this out in the next month or so. We're buying about $250,000 in new equipment from a new supplier.
Okay.
We've been using a bunch of payment terminals. We work with Stripe, Adyen, as well on the payment side, so we use a lot of their hardware. But that's one of the gotchas when you move into POS is the actual physical hardware.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot of work and it's slow. It's not you can write software much faster and you can manufacture something.
Yeah.
It doesn't help any that hardware is particularly complicated by all of the new tariffs.
Right.
So
right.
Everybody in Asia, which is where, by the way, if you don't know where your phones and your computers all come from, they're all coming from Asia.
Yeah.
There's nobody manufacturing those in the U.S. So it's interesting at the moment, but we're in the U.S., Australia, and Canada, and we have a warehouse as well in Shenzhen, which is Southeast Asia, Southeast China.
Okay. Well, first, I just love that origin story that like you're trying to actually, as a customer, get Toast to let you do something and here you now own a point of sale company and you compete with them.
Well, they actually said when we bought it, they would, and then we went to do it. They said no. So it was a little, but with that is how the whole thing started.
So how many point of sale? I mean, roughly, how many point of sale companies are there?
There's got to be thousands.
In hospitality or just?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of them that are paper thin.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of just wrapping somebody else's software. They get into things like so the distinction where we see ourselves, if we really don't see ourselves as a point of sale, and in fact, I hesitate to even say we're a payments company because I don't think value is created in payments.
Right.
Payments is a sort of a necessary evil, or it's a requirement to be what we are. We're really an operating product. Like we build our product backward, actually. So we started with the QRs. We built our KDS in 2019. So our KDS is actually more mature than most KDSs, including, I'm not going to name all the big guys, but including all the big guys. We do some really sophisticated things like you can manage inventory from the KDS. You can do batching. We do auto optimization based on running efficiency. Turns out there's all these problems that creep up when you use QRs, which is why we had to build our KDS first.
Okay.
And if you use QRs, you will absolutely break most bars and kitchens in terms of throughput management and delay management and all kinds of things, just kind of fall apart. So we did the QR, we built the KDS, and we built the POS. Many of these sort of paper thin POSs, they don't even have a KDS. So you're not managing inventory, you're not managing throughput, you're not managing I view it as, this is probably sacrilege, but again, I'm a mechanical engineer. I view a kitchen as a factory.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean it's not artful,
right.
But it does mean that you can apply science to it.
Sure.
Right. You can come up with processes that are efficient.
Yep.
You can leverage technology to do things like queuing and batching and throttling and controls. So we really manage the kitchen as a factory in terms of like predicting outcomes and trying to optimize so that it's easier to make things quickly.
Yeah.
So that's just, but somewhat comically, you can look at a lot of these POSs, they don't even have or the KDS they have is so bad. It's basically just receipts or tickets on a screen.
Yeah.
Which does nothing for you. It's still manual optimization. It doesn't really do that much. It just moves the paper onto a display. So the way we look at it is, let's imagine, in 5 years, stablecoin has replaced credit cards. This is totally unlikely, by the way. But let's imagine that stablecoin, due to its cost efficiency, replaces credit cards. Then what do we have? As GoTab, what value creation do we have? Because I don't think the value is in payments. Payments is, you can do payments with stablecoin. You could just do peer-to-peer on your phone, or you could do Venmo. The question is like, how do you actually run the facility? How do you integrate into accounting? How do you do messaging and communication between different team members as you're managing a crisis? Or how do you drop notes on a table? Or how do you manage the coursing from the handheld to the kitchen? Those are all operational problems.
Yep.
And that's where we invest the majority of our time and money.
Gotcha. Okay. Tell me about this, I guess, what is it, the ICP, Ideal Customer Profile, is that right? I'm still learning all my acronyms, man. I'm not a big acronym guy, but I hear that so much now, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, ICP, well, we use that a lot because we have to explain to investors, what's different from GoTab and Toast. Toast has been really successful. I would even go so far as to say it's the default. If you know nothing about restaurants.
I think it is. I think it is now.
It is currently, yeah.
That's going to change, my guess, but okay.
Well, let's assume you know nothing about restaurants. You're like me, right? And you go out and you open a restaurant. First thing you buy is the system that everybody else bought, right? And that's going to be Toast. And so, sorry, I'm getting afield of my subject.
Well, we're talking about ideal customer profile.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah, I was. On the ICP side, the challenge is what's different between GoTab and Toast. And to the average person who has never operated a restaurant, they can't tell the difference, right? They're all they see is the point of sale. All they see is that thing at the end.
Yeah.
Where we are different is how we operate the kitchens, how we operate the bars, how we communicate between the different devices, so that you can manage a very dynamic space. And if you go back to the scenario I described where you had QRs in the patio, bar service, and bowling service, those are what we would call separate zones.
Yeah.
And that scenario I described actually was an ICP, an ideal customer profile. And the reason it is ideal for GoTab is because we can do different operating models within different spaces. Those different spaces might have all kinds of different things. Let's say that patio has a different security requirement because there's nobody out there. So you want to make sure the cards are on file before they order something from the QR. But maybe sometimes you actually have a bartender out there. So you need to flip the service model so that on Fridays and Saturdays when you have a bartender outside, you can flip the service model, you open the bar, and all the drinks and orders that are ordered either on QR or from the bartender go to the bar outside.
Okay.
Our product does that. None of the other products can dynamically flip a switch and say, okay, the bar's open, reroute all the drinks, boom. Or mixing QRs with handhelds. That's also something we uniquely do. Most systems are going to see a QR order or a QR tab is separate from a POS tab, and GoTab, they're seamlessly back and forth in the real time. So if you sit down at a table, you order from a bartender or a server, and then maybe they don't show up and you want to scan the QR and pay on your phone because you need to leave, or you want to order a second drink or an appetizer, you can scan the QR, retrieve your tab, add to that tab without having to find the bartender or pay it. So that sort of hybrid service, as we would call it, is going to be our ICP as well. And where I would say we're not, and the easiest way to describe it is like what isn't uniquely qualified for GoTab. And this doesn't mean we don't do it better or cheaper. It just means that there's no operational advantage. So if you're running a classic sit-down restaurant with handheld POSs, let's say you're even using tickets and no KDSs, there's nominal benefit to using GoTab versus Toast. It's pretty much going to be the same. You're not leveraging technology in your kitchen. You're probably not leveraging any inventory, because if you're just using tickets, you're probably not very sophisticated in running any inventory. You're probably limited cost management. We will be cheaper, but it's the Corolla versus the Taurus or something. I mean, you're basically just running, you're doing normal stuff. It's when you get outside of the standard box that we can really do unusual and capable things that nobody else can do. And that is our ICP. So long story short, I'll give you examples. Right now we're opening like, I don't know, 1 to 3 pickleball venues a week. In that case, it's because we tie into the memberships. So oftentimes a pickleball club will have memberships. They have discounts on the memberships. Our POS will detect the membership and apply the discounts automatically integrated with the court reservation system.
Okay.
Maybe you have a pour wall, meaning an RFID pour wall or a QR-driven pour wall. Those are beverage walls or dispenses on its own. GoTab also seamlessly integrates with those so that when you walk up to the POS, you can order from a server or someone at the counter. You can also then take your phone or an RFID badge over to the wall and pour your own beverage, and it automatically adds to your tab.
Okay.
Again, not your standard service model. Becoming increasingly common across the U.S., but it is not the standard, server with a handheld.
Sure.
I think where we're going that's going to differentiate us more in our non-ICP is some of the stuff we're doing with Opsie around inventory and cost management. Again, in that
for
case,
like a normal full service.
For a normal full service, like,
right.
Hey, we're not really interested in leveraging technology. Where we're doing is we're doing everything cheaper, and we're also making it easier. So it's lower effort. So for example, the inventory is already fully integrated into GoTab. We have built in hierarchical inventory, so we understand the teardown of ingredients on a hamburger, for example.
Okay.
And we can understand how much cheese you consumed by selling cheeseburgers.
Okay.
And then we can help with the recipes and then also tell you how much cheese you need to buy. But it's all in one box, so you're not having to stitch it all together across 5 different products.
I would argue, from what I've seen and heard, that you have one of the things you do well in that non-ideal customer profile, the full service restaurant or whatever, that we'll name names, but some of the larger competitors don't do as well, is just the service aspect. Service getting outsourced or nearly eliminated, or chat bots and no humans, not a good thing for restaurant people. I mean, you're talking about people that built a business, their whole livelihood is on providing good service, right? Like, again, not talking about McDonald's. I'm talking about your neighborhood pub, your neighborhood full service restaurant, your independent, guy or gal who owns 1 or 3 restaurants there in their town, and they're very successful in large part because of the people that are involved. And when those people have a problem and they need help and they don't have any way to get help, they get frustrated. I'm hearing that a lot. I mean, this is a big part of our business model, right? Like, it's like why people love ScheduleFly is a large part because that my phone is there. Yeah, we answer it, or at least they know if they call or if they email, they do get a good, fast, thoughtful, intentional human response. And that matters to that audience a lot. And we're starting to see grumblings of maybe somebody squeezed everything they can out of us, and now we don't matter as much.
You are 100% correct. We actually do get a lot of customers for our service. One of the reasons is we have 24/7 phone, text, and chat service. Chat is built in directly into our app, as well as on all the devices. It is a big deal for us. We're actually investing more into our service team, and our whole service team is actually regionally based. So we have a service team for the U.S. in the U.S. We also have a service team in Asia to service Australia. They also service the U.S. if you're dealing with 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. Hawaii time, which is, I guess, actually just midnight Hawaii time is very difficult to service from the East Coast, for example. So we do have 24/7 global support on all channels. And you're right, we actually do get a lot of customers from that. It's not a technological advantage, it's an investment sort of strategy, because we continue to pour more into that. And it's somewhat funny though, people are amazing, and we are big fans of people on the support line answering phone calls, answering texts. We have a pretty high requirement around 2-minute or less response time. One thing we are doing is we are leveraging AI in that, but it's AI plus people, not AI instead of people.
Sure.
And so it's the combination of the two. One of the things that AI can do is it can respond faster.
Yep.
It doesn't mean it's better, right? So we've all experienced horrible chatbots giving you, totally inane answers.
Yep.
The question is, does someone swoop in and bail you out of that scenario and keep you from getting, fatigued and frustrated? So it's great when it answers you rightly, correctly, or rightly, quickly. It's terrible when it doesn't. And so our thing we're investing more into is both. So giving the AI to our support team so they can answer better, faster, because some of these problems get pretty messy, but also giving a first go to the client so that they can get an answer that might be right within 5 seconds, right? So it's sort of the combination, and we just, I believe very much like it's technology plus humans. That's even if you look at our POS, it's the same idea. It's like a server's fantastic, assuming they're available and not picking up a broken glass. But if they're picking up a broken glass, guess what? Everybody gets ignored.
Yeah.
And they may need something, and they may need to leave, and that's when QRs are pretty fantastic.
Technology can help. Yep.
So it's an ideal world to say, you will always have people available, but it's not pragmatic. Because let's say there's some, Cloudflare, for example, is a technology we're dependent on, and Cloudflare drives it's estimated 30 to 40% of the internet goes through Cloudflare. 2 years ago, they had a problem. 2 years ago, 30 to 40% of the internet, including Netflix and everything, like it was gone. So as you might imagine, our phones lit up instantly within 5 seconds. And we can't have enough support people to answer the thousands of simultaneous calls.
Right.
So how do we answer that? Well, it turns out it's the same answer as what everybody needed to know, which was, hey, major internet infrastructure problems. And so technology can solve that. So it's really both.
Yeah. I think about when we got hacked.
Yeah, you probably had a lot of phone calls that day.
12 days. Yeah. I mean, we were, but I got to tell you, dude, this is where humanity makes a difference, because this was January 1st, 2022, 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday, New Year's Day. And we went down. Now thousands and thousands and thousands, at that time, like almost 7,000 or something restaurants all over the U.S. could not get in the ScheduleFly. Had no idea who's working. Nobody knew nothing, right? And we obviously had to, our site was down too. We had to redirect. Like, you couldn't even go to schedulefly.com. We had to redirect all the traffic. So we had to put up a video of me looking like I was, at death's door, going I'm sorry, and this sucks, and we're working on it, and it's, we own it. And but you know what happened, Tim, is like a lot of companies, we didn't know what to do. My instinct is always like, just be honest and like look people in the eye and just, tell them whatever the deal is, tell them the truth. Yep. A lot of companies, I found out, when this happens,
they hide it.
Yeah. And dude, to this day, what was that? So that was 2022. This is almost 4 years later. I'll still get people that will call, like, to ask a question or, whatever, like, hey man, you remember that time y'all got hacked? I'm like, yeah,
I remember that.
Dude, we didn't know what to do, and we were thinking about like changing and moving to a different one. But like those videos you put out every day made us like kind of connected to y'all. Like we were like rooting for you.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. And so, we lost customers because of that, but we kept so many because of just being honest with people and just like being straight and being human about it and being real and, being vulnerable. And that humanity, it goes a long way. Again, particularly, it blows me away that people that service the hospitality industry don't provide them hospitality.
It is amazing.
And most don't. And so when you do, they see it, like they recognize it, and it matters. Like it really matters to them. So I think you all have, when I talk about GoTab, I'm like, look, they have phenomenal technology, but they also have phenomenal service. And like that's a differentiator.
Well, like I said, I personally called Rose back when she had my phone and left a voicemail on my phone. So it is important to me. I do believe it starts at the top, and I'm sure in your organization it's the same. Like you have to be willing to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to take those calls, do the work. At the end of the day, none of us are above it.
Yeah.
It's super important to your point. And I obsess over the details in this around support because, when I see, and unfortunately it does happen, someone doesn't get answered fast enough or something doesn't get addressed quickly enough, is the question is like, how can we do better next time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Just use that as a learning experience and get better from it. Get a little bit better every day.
Being transparent, to your point. In fact, that company I just mentioned, Cloudflare, is a tech company. We all uniformly admire them because they publish what went wrong after the fact.
Right.
Which, of course, nobody else does.
Yeah, right.
Nobody else ever says like, oh, well, this was a power infrastructure failure, and here's how it all went down, and blah, 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 and here's what we're doing to address it. And yeah, we'll probably have problems inevitably again because things fail in ways we never foresaw.
Yeah.
But I do find, again, this is a tech company, and I never talk to them, but it is endearing to actually have a company that's willing to put that to paper and say it out loud.
Yep. I love I love this. I did not know that about Costco, but Costco has clearly created a lot of like brand love and brand loyalty. And I saw something recently that it really struck me because I always try to figure out, how do we do things? I don't want to follow a playbook, right? Like, I want us to do things not different just to be different, but I want us to come up with our own ways of doing things that align with our values that may or may not be the way everybody else does it.
Yep.
The dude who runs, the Savannah Bananas, that baseball team.
Yep.
I mean, they're like just printing money now, but like I saw this clip of him talking about how if you buy a $30 ticket, that is your tax. That is he's like, it's $30. It's not 30 plus it. He's like, we pay the tax.
Yep.
We absorb that. And he goes, our CFO and our account, they're always like, oh my God, you're leaving so much money on the table. And he's like, that's like something that you can measure in a Excel spreadsheet, but what you can't measure is the fact, like the trust and loyalty and love that creates with our customers, that they know we're not nickel and diming them, that they know we're not like trying to squeeze everything out. We could charge more for our tickets if we wanted to. We don't. We want this experience to be so great that they love us, they tell others, and it's clearly working. The dude's selling out like 100,000, seat stadiums right now, but it's all because of, as he says, like really obsessing over the customer experience, not obsessing over how much money can we get out of these people. And like, that's where there's a lot. Dude, I worked for a bank when I got out of college. I spent 3 years at a bank. And I'll never forget going to some like awards thing or whatever for like top salespeople.
Right.
So here we are behind closed doors, and this senior executive gets up there and he starts talking about, banks make their money off of interest, but they also make fees.
Yeah.
And he goes, I like fees. Let me tell you how much I like fees. And he kept going on about fees. And all I'm sitting there thinking is like, why don't you talk about how much you love customers?
Right.
Why don't you talk about how much you love like helping businesses fulfill their dreams?
Yep.
Because I would think if you focus on that, the fees are the byproduct. They come, but they come happily because you're helping customers be successful. It's just I don't know how any other way to look at business than like, why don't we always focus on like, how do we make life easier for the customer? The byproduct is the financial success. But if the goal is the financial success, you're going to be short-sighted, myopic. You'll start cutting you'll start cutting things away that are actually the like lifeblood and the secret sauce of like a successful business.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that's why, as a side note, I actually sat next to a CEO of a payments company on a panel at a payments conference. and he almost did the exact same thing. In fact, he went so far as to say how stupid his customers were that he could raise the prices on them and they didn't even know. In a room of 60 payments people, right?
Yeah.
And so it is boggling to me that first off they think that way, and second that they even go so far as to say it in public.
Say it
It's
out loud.
insane.
Right.
I can't even know. I couldn't sleep with myself. My whole premise is value creation, and so I actually really wish our industry had a simpler pricing, more transparent pricing model. I just learned the hard way, like everybody else, that unfortunately that's not. Everybody wants a deal.
Yeah.
And what they think a deal is different.
Yeah.
So every customer we talk to has at the end of the day, we're going to get paid the same. The funny thing is that we're just shuffling the profit from one side to the other.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to do a deal if we lose money.
Right.
It's bad.
Yeah.
But that's not actually our obsession. Our obsession is we want to solve their business problems. We want to help them make money. We want to help them succeed and grow as a business. But yeah, we unfortunately spend way too much time on the fees. I'd never want that to become my obsession. In fact, I say it all the time. I know way more about payments than I ever wanted to know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like knowing the tax code. It's not something that I'm sure tax accountants are thrilled to know the tax code. I would rather I never knew what I know about payments.
Ignorance is bliss. Yeah, I don't know anything about payments. I'm happy about that. Well, okay, so you guys are growing at a very, very healthy clip, and you're profitable. So what's next? What happens over the next 3 to 5 years?
For us, it's going to be more global expansion.
Why is that? Why? I was going to ask you, you went to Australia, why go there versus just double down on the U.S.?
We are doubling down. I mean, that growth is actually U.S. only.
Okay, gotcha.
So Australia is actually growing faster, but it's smaller. We have had a lot of pull from operators outside the U.S. One thing that's a little weird about Australia is their labor is actually more expensive than the United States.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the United States is very non-uniform. So there's some cities where labor's crazy expensive. You're talking, $15, $20 an hour.
Yeah.
And then there's some cities where it's $2. Right. And so it's not like the United States is one consistent labor cost or labor availability. And that tends to drive adoption of our technology. So if you can just throw bodies at a problem, because bodies are freely available, and I'm using that term intentionally.
Sure.
Because when labor is so cheap, you don't really have to think about it. You can solve it with just people. Whether that works or not, people doing accounting versus computers doing accounting can actually be horrible.
Right.
Because people are incredibly good at dealing with curveballs. They're incredibly bad at making the exact same widget 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So machines are great at that. People are good at dealing with making unusual demands. Anyway, back to Australia. Australia was unique because they do use QRs. They actually, due to their service model and due to the lack of labor and very strong labor laws, they essentially, labor is $30 an hour Australian, which converts to $20 an hour US roughly. But this is a fun kicker. Holidays and Sundays, you actually pay double.
Okay.
So when your revenue goes up, you're paying double wages.
Right.
So much so that I was talking to an operator there, and they were saying that they're contemplating closing on the holidays because they can't make money.
Right, because unless they double the revenue, then
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty harsh environment to operate in terms of labor management, and we find even our adoption in the U.S. is going to be much higher in places where labor costs more. And again, remember the whole thing I started with: people only change with pain. Right. Operators only adopt technology when they literally are going to fail if they don't adopt technology. We've seen it. Nobody's going to, if you can throw 10 bodies at, some problem at $2 an hour,
harder to there's not as much pain in North Carolina where it's $2.13 an hour or whatever it is than
Correct.
California works.
Correct. Yeah, I mean,
20
SoCal, it's $15-$20, and getting people to show up is very hard. Or Hawaii.
Yeah.
I mean, I was actually just amazed. I was talking to a friend who's not in the restaurant industry, and his son's working at a brewery, and his son came home from work for 7 hours, and he made $8. And I was like, that's illegal, right? Like, you actually have to make up the difference. And he's like, no, I didn't know that. My son didn't know that. So the fact is, there's a lot of operators, nationwide that don't adhere to what they are supposed to.
Yeah.
They're supposed to make up the difference.
Okay.
And so it's just, when you get bigger, when you have to get efficient, then our technology becomes relevant.
Gotcha.
But if you can get away with it, if your kid can work the till and, your costs are super low, then yeah, no need for technology.
Yeah. Okay. You have a lot of breweries, and
there's 9,000 in the U.S.
9,000. How many were there?
10,000 was peak.
Okay.
Yeah, 10,000 was peak a couple of years ago. I think it's somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 currently.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of breweries are having a hard time right now.
There's a lot having a hard time, mainly because many of them didn't pivot into being more than beer. Those are the ones that are really struggling.
Yeah.
If they didn't have a full service restaurant, if they didn't see, one thing I think is interesting with this sort of movement away from alcohol culturally in the country, or at least somewhat away.
Oh, yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, it is that I actually have non-drinking friends who go to breweries because there is a vibe to breweries, right?
Yeah.
Breweries are more than just a beer place. They're a place to hang out. They have a certain feel.
It's a great place to just relax with your buds.
Yeah, it's a different feeling. Like you can hang out at a brewery for 2 hours. You're not going to hang out at a restaurant for 2 hours.
No, they got to turn the table and start to feel it. Yeah.
So it's just a different thing, and I think some of the breweries have realized like they've created this vibe.
Yeah.
But in order for you to hang out for 2 hours, you need food, you need something to do. You really need to create a whole experience. And the ones there's actually plenty of breweries thriving. They're the ones that have focused on like, oh, it's okay. We have this place of entertainment where we come and families and lots of different people come for different reasons, but they're there for an experience.
People are taking kids, dogs.
Absolutely.
There's bands. I guess some of them I see now like they'll have food trucks or whatever if they don't have a kitchen or whatever. But you have to have that.
You have to have the whole experience, right?
We have great beer.
Yeah, just the world's best hazy doesn't carry you anymore.
Yeah.
And so, and my breweries always started that way. We always felt like, I had small kids at the time, and we always wanted a place that was family friendly. Yeah, you're drinking beer, but you're also hanging out with your friends and family. And many people at my breweries are on bikes, so they're showing up and they're there for a while.
Right.
We think it's a great, experience. And in fact, that is what GoTab has turned out. We focus on is on-premise experiences. Because we've always had this hypothesis that, in a future world where we all order, takeout or order delivered food and watch Netflix for all of our entertainment, some portion of people are not going to do that. And maybe at some point there might even be a backlash where we all say, hey, you know what? Let's actually be in person. Let's leave our houses and let's hang out together. And it turns out that experience might actually be better.
I think that will happen because now we're getting the science, the very clear data that that's not healthy, right? And I was very interested in asking you about that because I do hear a lot more about breweries closing, and I obviously hear a lot more about the move away from alcohol, but I always feel like, okay, fine, but that doesn't mean you can't pivot and make changes and find ways to get people to come, whether it's for the vibe or whether it's for, I don't know. Like great bars are coming up with phenomenal mocktails now that are, no alcohol and taste. I drink those a lot when I go out now. I don't really like to drink liquor, but sometimes I'll get a mocktail and spend a lot of money for it, but I'm like, oh, this is cool.
I agree. I do think it's, I think long term, I honestly hope it's just a pendulum swing. And too much alcohol is a bad thing. There's a fantastic book called Drunk by Edward Slingerland,
Uh-huh.
like How We Drank Our Way to Civilization. Essentially, he's an anthropologist, I think philosophy professor. Awesome book. If you ever get a chance, do read it. He makes the case that we really should be endorsing low alcohol because not no.
Yeah.
And that if you look at sort of the history of alcohol and civilization, all civilizations that sort of achieved much actually tended to be wrapped around alcohol.
Yeah.
And so it is a technology, and it turns out there's all kinds of interesting side effects of the technology, including not only, I'll give a quick digression. The phrase in vino veritas, which means in wine truth. So people tell the truth when they're drinking, but interestingly, neurologists have done studies and people actually can detect truth when they're drinking. So not only is the person who's speaking to you more likely to tell the truth, you're actually more likely to detect if they're telling the truth.
Yeah.
And in a country where we no longer know what's true anymore, it turns out maybe getting together in person and sharing a beer or a glass of wine might be a very sensible way to reestablish truthfulness.
That's awesome.
So anyway, the point is, like, it goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks. It's a really interesting read about the history of alcohol. And he actually is an advocate of, like, okay, let's reconsider liquor. Maybe not such a great idea because, like many technologies, we took it really far. And I'm not saying liquor I don't even want to get into that argument, but his point is, like, hey, moderated alcohol is actually a really good social tool. And we should be considering, like, whether we should just throw it out wholesale because that might have negative impacts on our society.
I think any form of something like that, it's dose dependent.
Correct.
It's like medicine or anything, right? Like the right amount actually causes an improvement.
Right. Too much, not so good.
We used to talk about this. I remember when in college we go out to this. I had buddies that we would play pool all the time.
Yep.
And we go to this bar and we had like this thing. It was called the X theory. Like when you start playing and you're sober, your game is like down here, and then when you start drinking, it gets better. But then it
gets
like,
worse. Yeah, it goes off a cliff. I did the exact same thing in college.
It's the right amount,
it's
right?
It's the 2-beer pool game. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. That's right. So I think you're right. I mean, we get, like a lot of people. I mean, I've been following Andrew Huberman for a long time, but as like it was like before everybody knew who Andrew Huberman was, and this guy's like, making a lot of sense and providing a lot of good health advice. And next thing I know, my wife one day, who does not follow that kind of stuff, came. She's like, this Huberman guy is saying not to drink. And I'm like, we're having a cultural moment. Like this is like where we're just like, everybody's like, I don't drink anymore.
Right.
And then you eventually like, well, is it really that bad to have like a glass of wine every now and then? Like, no, it's not. Like, and wine and beer have been around for thousands of years.
Correct.
And by the Lindy effect, they'll be around for thousands of years. It's just so we go through cycles of like,
correct.
So I think you're right about that. Like we can overdo it a little bit sometimes, and but it's good though, because the same thing with like what we were talking about a little bit beforehand, like food and diet. Like it's good for us to recognize that eating crappy, mass-processed junk all the time is not healthy.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that you have to go to the far polar extreme and like get rid of every bit of that all the time, forever and forever. It's more like just have it there as needed and on occasion, and don't freak out when you do. It's actually good for your body to like take a little bit of poison every now and then, because then it actually knows how to process the poison. It's just that you don't want to just dump it in there constantly. But I think that's true with anything. I think it's true with sprints. Like you do this thing that's like really taxing for a short period of time, and then you rest, and that actually makes your body better.
Correct.
Same with anything like alcohol and anything else. So but it is, there were too many breweries. I mean, look, there's too many technology. There's too many of everything, because for a decade money was free. So you could just have an idea and go get some venture capital folks and be like, I need $5 million, and it's free money. Like, go for it. You
can do that now if you put AI at the end of it.
If you put AI, another bubble. I mean, like it's there. It needs to be there, but there's, that's happening. You're right. But money was free, right, for everything. Interest rates were zero. So you could go start a brewery, and borrow money, and and they're just so freaking many of them. And I was always like, how do all these places work? Well, they worked because money was free, and
Yep.
people were drinking, and now people aren't drinking as much, and money isn't free, and But the industry gets better. Have you ever read Nassim Taleb? He wrote Black Swan and Anti-Fragile.
Yeah.
He talks about the restaurant industry specifically. I thought it was a really good point. He's like, look, for every restaurant failure, it's horrible on the individual level for those people, but the industry improves because the industry collectively learns from others' mistakes, right? You see what somebody did wrong, and you go, okay, well, we shouldn't do it that way. We need to do it better or differently or whatever. And so the industry always gets better. It gets better with service models. It gets better with the tech they adopt and all that kind of stuff. So interesting. So you bought Opsie. Now they're part of your team.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting to see where you take this. Like, you've got this open API. Everybody can, dial in. Best in class, let you pick and choose, which is cool, which is very different than like some of your competitors are like, hey, we're all in one. Like, because you can't really be great
at everything. Well, I would even say you can't be great at everything for everybody.
Yeah.
So the thing is, just on the point of Opsie still integrates with Square, integrates with Toast, integrates with Clover, and we're not closing those down.
Yeah.
Good. So they have clients on all those platforms.
Yeah.
And they're actually adding more. And the reason is because maybe those systems work great for them. And we're not in the business of telling people like, hey, if there's some feature or tweak or something in that system that really suits your need, then go for it.
Yeah.
Likewise, GoTab integrates with other companies like Margin Edge or Craftable,
right?
Which are cost management, which are competitors with Opsie.
Okay.
And we actually have no intention of shutting those down or not servicing those. And the reason is again, there's nuances to each of these systems. Sometimes there's just some feature that's really critical to that system. And our goal is to continue to support operators as much as we can with those needs that they may have. And so it's just, that is our ethos and belief system for now. I don't foresee it changing. We are pretty committed to that. So is the Opsie team. However, we are working to make it so that if you are using both, you can do things that aren't really possible with other systems because the lines of integration are difficult.
Right.
So where we really want to get to is so that cost of goods sold is transparent, even within GoTab. And now a lot of that cost of goods sold data comes from Opsie, and it's going to be very, very deeply integrated into the product. Okay. And part of the reason it would be more so with Opsie is because like we have deeper hooks into them than most systems offer.
Yeah.
So some of the other systems don't offer the kind of data that we can pull, because we can basically say, hey, can you extend this API so that we can pull this invoice data, for example. And that's our goal. And the goal really is so that the operators can operate more profitably with less effort.
Yeah.
Because right now, in my opinion, inventory is like the last technical non-solved problem in hospitality, or one of, I should say, let me correct that. Inventory is an opportunity that is been left for dead in most cases. Like I would venture to say that 90% or higher of independent restaurants don't actually do inventory.
Yeah.
And that's because the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
You think 90% or higher?
I'm willing to bet that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And what I mean by the juice isn't worth the squeeze is it's really hard to do the inventory and maintain the processes to continue to do the inventory and do it well.
Yeah.
Because it's just a lot of work. And then at some point, when you do fix it, now you're not losing stuff because you've done inventory and maybe people aren't pilfering it on the way out the door. So then you stop. So when you stop doing inventory, of course, stuff starts disappearing, and pours get bigger and whatnot. So it's sort of this like impossible task. So our goal with Opsie is to make inventory easy, like basically a no effort inventory, which I think would be fantastic if you could get, if you just, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. If the juice takes almost no squeeze, that's a pretty fantastic outcome. And that's really what our goal is to make operating not a lot of desk jockey time, not a lot of walking around your warehouse time, your walk-in or your storage closet. All those things, we're trying to make those as automatic as possible because frankly, no one loves doing them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a pain point. That's for sure.
It's a pain point that everybody'd love to solve, but they don't want to put the time into.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What's the ultimate objective? Like, do you want to sell this business one day? Do you want to take this business public one day? Or are you just trying to go 1 year to the next? And
No. I mean, our objective is to grow in a healthy, sustainable way so that our clients can also do the same. Or not if they don't want to grow, but we want them to be able to have a predictable, cost-efficient technology partner that they can rely on to operate their business, and really no surprises for them. From our perspective, I've already built and sold a company. I'm not in a race to build and sell this company. And candidly, I could have sold it when Bebot sold to DoorDash.
Yeah.
We did not take that offer. So we're not really in a rush to do anything like that. Right now it's just keep our nose down and grind forward in a healthy way. So we're growing our own team, we're growing our client list, we're growing our footprint. But it's really kind of a no surprises. There's not going to be any big Hail Mary and we're profitable, so we don't have to do anything like that.
Yeah.
We don't have to go out and raise money or die type thing. That's not in our cards. So it's really just more of the same. There might be some more, sort of Opsie type, hey, there's a gap in our tech that we see an opportunity with the right team to tuck in and solve a problem that clients have asked us repeatedly to solve, or we just can't solve it with partners. We have over 200 integrated partners now, so we're really big on partners. But sometimes we can't get partners to play ball. Yeah. And I'll give you a perfect example is the reservation space. They're really, really hard to integrate with, and they are very protective of data. So it's hard to get. We're only integrated with OpenTable currently, and they've been accommodating with that, but it's not a very open space, and so operators are always saying, could you solve this problem for me? I'm not saying we're going to do reservations, by the way.
Yeah, but that is okay. So you have OpenTable, and what else? You have
Talk, which are both owned by Amex now.
Amex. Yeah. Okay.
7 Rooms was recently bought by DoorDash. Yeah.
Like $1 billion or something, right?
1.2.
Okay.
Yep.
So they're hard to. I didn't realize that.
You would think they wouldn't be.
Yeah, you would think.
You would think they would be. So, it's a funny side note. 7 Rooms used to be the open platform, but a couple of years ago they became less so. So, we are trying to. I think we're close to integrating with 7 Rooms, and we've been begging to integrate with them. But it's partly just due to that thing I said earlier, like hospitality doesn't demand open technology.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah.
They should. One of the things I said on a panel alongside Savneet from PAR is like, if you go to a restaurant technologies website and they don't have an API published on their website, you should ask like where the API is, because it should be there, in my opinion. Or there should be some way to get your data out, and it's just I think that's good stewardship for your client. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, because the reservations thing's interesting. I feel like I'm glad to know that, because we haven't really, as you know, I mean, we didn't really do integrations, and we've made some changes, and now we're working on some of that stuff. But I always felt like reservation data ought to be right there, sitting on your screen as you're building a schedule. Like, that would be real helpful.
Well, it is inside the reservation system, but getting it out of the reservation system is harder.
Yeah. But I mean, if it were sitting there and you're in ScheduleFly and you're working on a schedule and you have all the reservation data for that day, it helps you know how to plan a schedule. So I look at it like, hey, why don't we work together and have this data flowing back and forth? This helps the customer. Like, I'm always about like, let's help the customer. But then sometimes it's more like,
Once they get big, they close the gates.
They close the gates,
Yep.
or there's this fee or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the big problem I had with one of your big competitors with like, oh, sure, we'll do it. Well, there's several of them. Like, we'll do it but it's going to cost you tens of thousands to start and
Right.
then X amount per. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, this is just like writing code and like, why don't we help if we help the customer,
Yeah,
and
it's
the customer
mutual benefit.
loves us
It's
both, right?
Three-party benefit. It's both of us win and the client ends up happier.
This is when you know
right.
the executives are behind the doors going, I like fees. Like it's all about like,
right, exactly.
Show like I want money out of that. I'm not thinking about the customer. I'm thinking about like our bottom line or whatever. So, okay. Well,
I mean, to be fair, integrations aren't free. Like we have a dedicated
sure.
team. It's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. Right. But I mean,
so
but
it's
an
it's
investment.
cost of doing business. Like
Yeah.
in order to operate a tech company, you do need to make your data available, and you do need to support integrations as much as possible. I mean, I will admit, we have some clients who have like a single unit that are begging us to do an integration. We're like, it's really, really hard to justify.
It's hard to justify that. No, I agree with that.
But when you hit a certain quantity of demand, we pretty much hop to it as fast as we can.
Yeah. I'm pausing only here, Tim, because I'm trying to think out if there's anything else that what have we missed? Anything else we should be talking about? If not, we'll wrap this up.
No, I mean, we covered a lot of ground, in my opinion. I always enjoy hanging out. So I'm sure we'll find another occasion to do it.
Thank you all for listening. I'm trying to remember to do this. Did you have something else you want to say?
Oh, I was actually going to say one thing that gets asked of me all the time. So everybody still seems to think I run these breweries. My wife runs the breweries.
Yeah.
So if you want access to the breweries, just text me and I'll introduce you to my wife, because I really don't. I only go there when we want to try some new experiment on them from a technology perspective. So
it's cool to have that at your disposal. That's really cool. That's good. Well, that's awesome that y'all have those and she's running. Does she enjoy doing it?
She does.
Yeah.
She loves it. Yeah, she really enjoys it. She was involved in the start, not as heavily. And then when I decided to go full-time at GoTab, she took them over voluntarily, and she's been running it ever since, doing a fantastic job. And she's really engaged. I mean, she's in the office every day. But
okay.
I do not run two businesses. I am
You're 100%.
150% GoTab.
I'm glad you made that comment, because I knew there was something lingering in my head that I knew I wanted to ask you about, and I could not tap into it. You run lean here. You run a profitable business.
Yep.
Tip of the hat, because, a lot of times, because you've had a successful exit. So it's easy when you've got access to capital and you've raised, to just plow money into something, and it would be easy to have probably a lot more people here and have a lot more overhead and a lot more expense. But running lean I just love that. I love lean businesses and using creativity versus money to try to solve problems as much as possible.
Yep.
Just talk a little bit about why that's important to you, why it's important to run lean.
Well, for me, it's in my DNA, I guess. I've run, like I said, I mentioned, I've started 7 companies.
Yeah.
GoTab's the only company that took anybody's money except for my own.
Yeah. Okay.
So they all started, with Siteworks, which was the company I sold. It started by signing a client contract. So
Right.
we started by making money on day one.
Yep.
And, we got paid when they paid us. And that was pretty much how I've run every business up till GoTab. GoTab is much more R&D intensive, so it wasn't a viable option. But it's just how I tend to operate. It's like, okay, look, your value's in the stock, so we're going to grow the company, and sorry, you're not going to get a big paycheck. We're not AI. We're not paying $1 million salaries. So we really are a long-term game in the sense of that is how we win, is by growing the value of the business.
Yeah.
And so everything in our business is aligned around that. And we try to keep it that way. And I also just have a hard time seeing how we can be cost efficient for our clients if we ourselves are also not lean, because the piper will have to be paid at some point.
Right.
And that's why people raise prices, because they start having to service the investors who want the returns. Those returns are going to be probably more than they wanted to pay, and those will be passed down, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, someone has to pay for it. And that's why it's always funny when we'll see people send us like, rate cards that are impossible. And I'm like, they're getting paid somewhere.
Yeah.
I know they're getting paid somewhere.
Right.
And if they're not getting paid now, they're going to get paid next week when they change the prices on you.
Yeah.
So staying lean means we don't have to do that. Much like you said, we've never changed prices. It's been 2 years since we changed our prices, and that's only because the card networks actually changed their prices.
You had to.
So we essentially haven't changed prices, and the only time we've added prices is when we've added new products, and those are new. Like for example, Opsie is now on our price list.
Right.
So
that's a separate service. So.
Yep.
Okay. I love the way you're running this thing. I love the fact that you're profitable. That's freaking awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. What a cool story. What a great company. If you've been listening lately, I am trying to remember to do this at every episode. I probably should do it at the start, but please give us a rating. Please follow the podcast, but give us a rating, hopefully 5 stars. Comments are cool too, because the more engagement y'all, the listeners, have with whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcast or whatever, if you rate this podcast, it tells those algorithms, get this podcast in front of more people. And the more people this gets in front of, the more people are going to get valuable insights and lessons and wisdom, and the more opportunity we have to keep investing and growing this thing. So thank you all for listening. You're awesome. We appreciate you. And as I said, any of you listeners out there, if you want to get in touch with me, just go to schedulefly.com. I'm not kidding. My cell phone number is on 3 pages, so you can find me easily. More episodes coming soon. See y'all.